Okay, welcome back to the Investigative Journal on this November 14th, 2016 day on our calendar. I'm your host, Greg Anthony. You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com. You can catch my show on this Monday and every weekday from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. That's Pacific time. They also play the show at 11 a.m. Pacific time, and if you can't get it there, go to my long-standing website at arcticbeacon.com, and you can get shows going back well over a decade regarding what I call the Vatican-led New World Order. All right, it's a Monday, a historic week in America. Boy, the buzz about Trump getting elected president has circulated through the country like a wildfire. And the left, a lot of the Hollywood liberals, are crying in their beer. These are people that make $28 million a movie, and they feel they have some right, or their vote is worth more than the guy who works in the cornfields in Kansas. And I find their attitude to be repulsive. And my advice to them is to try to make some good movies with some values. Try to make some movies that reflect what America's really all about. Oh, that'll never happen. You get more filth and dirt out of Hollywood than, boy, and it's not going to stop. But these people, it really does get to me when I think about, all the top celebrities that, are in the $10 million a movie range said, I'm moving to Canada if Trump is elected. I'm moving to New Zealand. Well, there was a big 7.8 earthquake there. I'm glad maybe you should have went right before that. But anyway, they're not going to leave. That's just rhetoric. Why would they go? Who was that? Samuel Jackson. He wants to leave as well. And a number of others. They're not going anywhere. Too much money involved. Where are they going to, and that's what I'm talking about. These people benefit from the American system, then want to control how it's run. It's incredible. And that's just a little side note that I had to get off my chest today. So there's a lot going on with this election. Like I said, this is, we're moving into Act 2 of the greatest Broadway stage play that ever was produced in the history of mankind. A big movie that they're presenting to us. And they turned it into a reality show, really, and it affects us. Oh, yeah, it affects us every day. There's so much to talk about regarding this election from every avenue. Let's get this straight. Trump is going to appoint pro-life judges, okay? And pro-Second Amendment judges. As we've seen, that's going to disturb the left, the lefties there. They're trying to do everything possible with their regulations. In California recently, they've passed some law on controlling ammunition. And what's happening all over the country are these bills to control gun movement are nothing but a hassle that's going to make it harder for the American person who's a sportsman or wants to protect his family to get a gun to protect his family, while it will do nothing for the criminals who get guns legally anyway. So the point being, you can have the strictest gun laws in the country, and I'll point to Chicago, and you have the most killings and gun shootings. So over 3,500 people have been shot in Chicago since the first of the year. And they have some of the strictest gun control laws known to man, but apparently they don't understand, or they want to basically allow this chaos to continue, that the criminals don't care about the laws. They'll get guns through the black market, and look, they'll probably get it even through our own government and military. And what I mean by that is the arms trade is something that has not been discussed much in the elections. Well, there's a lot that hasn't been discussed, but I guess we have to take baby steps and look at some of the broader issues here before we get into some of the things that the hidden agenda, what's going on behind the scenes. So, talking about pro-life judges, we know that Justice Scalia, the court now sits with 8. We normally have 9 justices. This president said that there could be 3 appointments during the next 4 years, which could tilt the Supreme Court in the direction of pro-life and pro-Second Amendment for many, many years to come. Now, what does that mean, pro-life? Well, we now have a decision by the Supreme Court, Roe v. Wade, which basically, you have to understand right from the beginning, the Constitution says nothing about abortion, which means legally, if the Constitution says nothing about a subject, then the issue is left up to the states. But with the liberal left for years, with Roe v. Wade, they have basically forced something unconstitutional on the entire country. So what Trump basically is going to do, it's not going to be put a pro-life judge in. What a pro-life judge will do will be support no abortions, right? So let's say that the issue comes up and Roe v. Wade is overturned. What happens then? Does that mean that there's no abortions allowed in the entire country? No. The issue simply goes to the states, and each state legislature, each group of people in their part of the country will decide what's best for their people. Leads me to the idea, well, let's say you're in California and they rule that abortion is legal. Now you're in Iowa and it's not legal. What happens to the woman who wants to get an abortion? She has to go to California. Okay. So, basically, when a constitutional issue is not addressed, when something that affects the American people is not addressed in the Constitution, what that means is the states then have a right to rule on that issue. Roe v. Wade has always been a judicial see, what liberal judges have been doing is been rewriting the Constitution for us, just like Obama has been rewriting the Constitution, doing many unconstitutional things through executive privilege. Now, Trump has said, one, he is going to get rid of these many of the unconstitutional regulations and move forward. Good deal. As far as the Supreme Court justice, he will not waver on that. So there's 2 things he's going to do, which will basically help the American people. Now let's move to Second Amendment. Hillary Clinton, probably, in my mind, she's a sharp, well, she's not as sharp as she used to be, but and maybe she was never really a sharp lawyer. I don't think she would have ever made a great trial lawyer because she has a very terrible presentation. So she is totally against the Second Amendment. Now, when you listen to her, you think, well, she's going to put in gun restrictions, etc. But she came out against the Heller case. And in the Heller case, it's a Supreme Court case. Now, here's the deal. Constitutionally, the Second Amendment is mentioned, the right to bear arms. However, there has been a disagreement between the left and the right that only the Constitution addressed that militias can have weapons, not every individual American citizen. Well, that was addressed by the Supreme Court in the Heller case. And guess what they decided? No, it's not just militias. It is the entire population. Each person has the right to protect himself under the Constitution. Clinton is opposed to that. Trump pointed that out and has said he's put up 10 or 11 judges. Each one of them have one thread in common, 2 threads in common. Each are pro-life and each are pro-Second Amendment against the Heller case. There's another good thing. Okay, let's go to something that could help business people. I'm going to make it real personal, okay? Because there are many different types of businesses. And the Keystone Pipeline is going to open up. That's going to create a lot of jobs. It's going to bring back coal. Clean coal. It's going to bring back a lot of energy jobs. His idea of repatriating, folks, There's trillions of money being held offshore now in corporations, and they can't get it back into the states by regulations put on us by the lefties who want to keep the money out of our country. Trump is going to get rid of that and is going to bring back trillions of dollars that are offshore right now to stimulate our economy. Good. How can he do that? Where can it go? It can go into the bridge. I can just point to one in San Diego that's falling apart. I drive from San Diego to LA. It's a 2.5-hour drive. The roads are terrible. I drive from here to Ensenada in Mexico, which I did this weekend, and the roads are beautiful. I see new things going up. I see new plants being put in. I see Fox Studios there. There's a whole bunch of things, and I'll get to why I was in Mexico for a couple days. But the point is, the stimulation of our economy is important. Now, let's talk about small business. Small business tax right now is 35%. We have the highest tax rate. That's for small and large companies in the world. Trump has said he will bring that down to 15%. Now, we have a Republican Congress that's in agreement. They said they wanted it at 18%. I don't see much problem there. Now, he also wants to get rid of Obamacare, which has created a mess for restaurants, for businesses, and many of the businesses, because of the high cost of Obamacare, has caused them to not hire people on a full-time basis. So many of the jobs that are created are part-time, terrible jobs, low-paying jobs that don't keep up with inflation. So his idea is to get rid of Obamacare, create a system that creates free choice in your health care, which means that insurance and to erase those lines now that exist where an insurance company can't cross a state to do business. If you get competition and you allow health care, it's kind of like savings accounts, you'll have a free health care with better coverage. Doctors hate Obamacare. They can't even, they're spending more time on, working on all the fine points of it that they don't have time to treat people. And there's so much red tape that many people aren't getting good care. It's a terrible system. The lefties have always wanted this to fail, and then to create what's in Canada, a socialist type of medicine, which I'm totally opposed to. Many people in Canada come here for treatment. So, folks, Obamacare in many of our states has created health insurance that's more than a person's mortgage. So it's good that Mr. Obama plays golf and goes into the sunset. So we get rid of Obamacare. We've now lowered the corporate tax rate to 15%. He's going to get rid of a lot of EPA regulations, a lot of red tape, and we have an issue here of minimum wage. Now, the point is, I'll get to that in a second, but let's say you want to open up a restaurant, and I'm familiar with the restaurant business. If Obama was still there, or Clinton, there's no way I'd want to open up a restaurant. You got Obamacare, which means, holy cow, I got all these insurance, then I got a 35% tax on top of state tax, on top of all these regulations in the restaurant business that are making it impossible to do business. However, now if you lower the tax rate to 15%, you get rid of Obamacare, you begin to allow people, a business, to make some money so they can hire people and make a profit, because the profit in the restaurant business is marginal, very, very marginal. The old saying goes this: if you have a restaurant, the food pays the bills and the booze makes your profit. Very simple. Wine and beer with meals, things like that, makes your profit. But if you start whittling that profit away with taxes, at the end of the day, the restaurant business is the hardest in the beginning. With Obama, there was no way you can do it. So maybe that'll open up some more business there. And there's many other things in the energy field by allowing us to be energy independent. All of it points to a growing economy. So we've seen that the reason that many people came out for Trump were for these exact reasons. Now we have the Brexit analogy. which means to, what happened in England. They wanted to split away from the European Union and not have Brussels and all those old white men telling England or telling France, France is still involved in it, telling Italy what to do. And that was a model. It's similar to what Obama was doing here, regulation after regulation, forcing immigration on these countries, which has created a hassle. So we get into immigration in America. And this is where it gets interesting. And you notice I'm being pretty serious today. I'm talking about what they're doing on the surface that's going to affect your life. Now, this is their movie script, and you have to ask yourself this question. If you believe that the Vatican-led New World Order's goal is to create globalism, a one-world government, a one-world order, it would appear, if you understand that the Pope and the cardinals and all of the Vatican hierarchy actually choose your president, which I believe is true. Why would they go with Trump if he's a nationalist? Seems like all his policies make our country stronger. Why wouldn't they allow Clinton in? Very interesting question, right? I'll get to that in the second half hour. But when we look at immigration, one of the reasons that I went to Mexico was to talk to some people about it. And I did. Just average Mexican people. And guess what they told me? Most of them want to live in Mexico. Most of these people, look, I live in San Diego, so I know it. I talk to people all the time. Many of them live there. They commute here, spending hours in the border lines. But the reason is that the jobs in Mexico are very low paying. It's impossible for them to make a living. And so I said to them, why do thousands come here? And they say they don't want to live in America. They want American money, and then they get it back to Mexico. And I've got some really interesting personal stories there that really show that the system is being manipulated on both sides of the border to create this kind of strife. And you have to then go back, and I'm working on a little piece that has to do with showing you that the Vatican and the governments were instrumental throughout the centuries to get rid, to do this, to take away any kind of Mexican nationalism, to create a system of chaos and drugs and what have you, to destroy their economy, because it could be a very wealthy country if it wasn't for the Vatican, and you can still see it there. It's an amazing story. And I think our borders, this issue would never come up. So there's more to this than just the idea that all of these immigrants want to come here and take over this country. No. They've been left no choice. And who caused that choice? I always said, if America would have been not in the hands of the Vatican, and same with Canada and Mexico, each country would be so vibrant, and so there'd be healthy trade. You wouldn't have NAFTA and all this crazy stuff that Clinton brought in on the direction of the Pope, which Trump says he's going to amend or get rid of, which is a good deal. But the point of immigration, so we're stuck with the problem now. And we got millions of people here that are usurping the middle class wages. That's what they're doing. They're getting rid, the Vatican has always wanted to get rid of the middle class, because you want a rich, poor society struggling all the time and never giving an average Joe a chance to live. Now, you look at the prices of homes. The average price of a home in the San Diego area is $390,000, $400,000. The only place you're going to find a home in America is one of these cities in the Midwest that have been gutted and abandoned. And then you go there, and what are you going to do? So there's a lot to be done. Now, whether it will get done is a real big question, but I'm talking about the positive today. Now, immigration, how do you solve it? Trump came up with this idea of a wall. Now, he's backtracking a little bit on it, saying that you can't build a wall from San Diego all the way to the other side because the terrain, some of the places, doesn't allow it. So we'll see what happens there. But there's nothing wrong with strong borders and allowing people. For example, if you go to there's a college here near in San Diego. If you go there and you say you're an illegal immigrant, you get free tuition. Many of these people are getting treated now better than our military. That's not right. So it creates chaos, strife. Now, if a person comes over here, is working illegally, and as one person said before the election, well, I consider these people to be contributing to society, so they're citizens. No, they're not. What's happening here is that we have to figure out a way first to get out and Trump said he would do this. There's many people here that are just not here just to work in the fields, not here to work in the restaurants, not here to build a business for their family. They're here for illegal reasons, and they've been allowed to be here by a lax Obama administration. So what's happened? Many people have been killed by these people who may have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 serious felonies, and still the legal system allows them to stay here. That's completely crazy. So there's estimated a couple million of these thugs. They've got to be rooted out and taken back to their country. Don't you think? Now the question of all the other illegals, which may be 11 million, maybe 15 million, you don't know. What are you going to do? I think what you have to do is figure out a path that they become legal, so that in the future we have a control on our borders. Because if you don't, you're going to have the same problem that's going on in England, where there are now Sharia courts functioning in certain parts of London, and Brexit is trying to solve this problem. You're going to have the same problem that's in France, millions of Germany, Italy. It'll be a mess. And we are going to get to the bigger issue in the second half hour, which could be the reason why the Jesuits in the Vatican have put Trump here. Now, do you think they've automatically, I mean, they've had a 500-600 year plan to globalize this world so they could have complete control. Now, people, when I say that, say, oh, that's impossible. No, it's not. They're steady. They've been doing it for hundreds of years. Do you think they're just going to automatically give up because 60 million people, mostly from the heartland and mostly from depressed parts of our country, voted for Trump, and that's going to trump the Pope and the Vatican? Heck no. So we have to figure out what their hidden agenda really is and how much time we have and what exactly could be the reason. Because I'm not going to waver on this point that the Vatican and the Knights of Malta and all their little organizations, secret little groups, are behind putting Trump in. And there's got to be a reason. And it doesn't lie with some of these peripheral important issues. It lies with something much deeper, and we're going to try to get to that. And I really hope you have some answers too. This is not an easy question, but we have to figure it out, or at least try to, or we'd be remiss in our duties, right? Yes, really. I'm telling you, it's a serious issue, and we'll talk about that in the second half hour on the Investigative Journal.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
The book of Revelation says, "The spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ." This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity, invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.
Okay, we are back for the second half hour of the Investigative Journal on this November 14th, 2016 day on our calendar. We're dealing with this question of where Trump really stands. He says he's for the American people. I've presented issues that show you on the surface he is. Will he get some of these done? I believe so. I believe there's a window here where it will happen. Now the question, first we have to ask ourselves this. What side is he on? Okay, he says he's on the side of American people, and many of the things that he says appear to be that way. Now, we have to also understand that 90%, 95 and 99% of the American population doesn't understand the hidden agenda, the Vatican Jesuit role, so we may be talking into the wind here, but to some of my listeners, I'm not. So let's put that on the table. How can we prove that Trump has been selected by the Pope and the Vatican to be president? I think we can take two issues and do that. And let's first start with, like I said, radical Islamic terrorism, immigration. Now, how are we going to prove that? He seems like he says everything right. I want to get rid of radical Islam. I don't want it here. I'm going to get rid of any kind of Muslim radical Islamist sympathizers in this country. Now, we know there's hidden sects, there's hidden groups that are going to bring terrorist events to this country. Now, if he's strong, how can he do this? Here's one way. Without talking about these violent groups, which law enforcement has to weed out, and whether they will or not is another question, he can make one real simple move. The news channels in June of 2016 talked about this military coup that was underway in Turkey. Prime Minister and the head of that country, Mr. Erdogan, accused Fethullah Gulen of staging the coup along with the United States cooperation. He's an imam living in Pennsylvania right now. He sponsors one of the biggest charter chains in the U.S. and is one of the biggest recipients of HB1 visas for Turkish teachers to staff his charter schools. Now, when this coup took place, Erdogan asked our government to turn over Gulen, who's basically running Muslim schools here with Turkish teachers, his largest HB1 visas in this country, allowed to do this. He's been financed by the American government to over $150 billion a year to create these schools, which they consider to be moderate Islamic schools, to integrate into our society. Moreover, Gulen, if you read some of the articles, are moving his schools into military bases. It's been estimated that his movement, which is considered to be by many, including General Flynn, who is going to be very active in the Trump administration, has come out publicly and stated that Gulen's movement could be a radical Islamic movement undercover, the Trojan horse they're talking about. His group, his movement worldwide is over $50 billion to $100 billion big. And when I said 150 billion from our country, it's 150 million, to fund these charter schools. When in fact, inner city people have no choice but to accept public schools, right? Doesn't seem right. Trump says he's stopping that. I don't know, he's never publicly stated anything about Gulen, but he's publicly come out and said he's going to give free choice of schools, again, to the Christian people in this country and also to people in the inner cities. And I think it's a good move because if you look, why does our government allow now Gulen to run these charter schools? Unless there was some real movement here to destroy Western civilization, bringing in a Trojan horse like this man, who's proven to be that in Turkey, who's proven to be that in Europe, and we reported on this back in 2006 and 5 with people I was talking to in Sweden and Norway, and this group was doing the same thing there. Now, he came here in 1992 when Turkey started to get wise with what he was doing, and guess who brought him over here? Bill Clinton. He came here in 1999 with the help of Clinton, both Hillary and Bill. Bill is still president, remember? And guess what? They've donated, the Gulen movement worldwide has donated to the Clinton Foundation more than $30 to $40 million. So, thank God she's not in office. Now, recently, Rachel Maddow from MSNBC came out with a small video. Now, this was about a 20-minute video, and the last 7 or 8 minutes were dedicated to really cutting down General Flynn, saying, and also many of our people who've come out and said that Gulen is a threat, and she basically was following the party line. She was really protecting Clinton. You could hear it in her voice. How could you expect? Then she was degrading Erdogan and talking about how he is the problem and Gulen is the good guy. Now, I sent that video to a couple friends, because one friend sent it to me about 3 days ago. It's no longer on the internet. Now, my question to you, if you want to know what side Trump is on, you can just look to see if how long Gulen is going to be allowed to be in this country and that movement allowed to be funded. And let's get it to General Flynn. Let's get it to the people that really know what this is all about. And if Trump comes through on getting Gulen out and stopping these charter radical schools, which are being taught being touted as a moderate Muslim integration to spread peace and prosperity, which is the complete opposite of what they want to do. Let's see where that goes. That'll show you one thing. Secondly, Trump has received the biggest evangelical Catholic vote in recent history. He did it by saying many things. One, the Supreme Court, like we talked about earlier. Two, by saying he wants to bring back religious freedom to this country. It's been stifled by the lefties. He wants to bring back, he says, ministers should be able to talk politics and not be stifled. He said he'd get rid of the Johnson Amendment. Lyndon Johnson passed a Johnson bill that basically stated that if you want 501c3 money, you can't support a political candidate. Now, guess what? Many lefties always are supporting political candidates, but when a right-wing Christian group starts to support something, the IRS comes down on them. They use the IRS as their henchmen. Now, I think the IRS should be abandoned. Why not just use auditors? And Trump's also going to streamline the tax system for personal individuals, bringing the categories down from 7 to 3, and also lower the tax rates to put more money in your pocket. Well, he also should abandon the IRS. Now, how can we tell what side Trump is on? Really, is he on the side of the American people, or is he on the side of the Vatican, doing something now that seems to be nationalistic that will turn into a assistance to their global program? Well, let's present him the Tony Alamo case. And let's present it now to all his people. He's going to have a number of people working in Christian freedom with these evangelicals. Let's get it to some people that can get it to close to him and say, listen, if you believe in Christian freedom, you better review this Tony Alamo case that we've been working on for 10 years to show you how Christians have been persecuted in this country by the use of IRS, the FBI, the BATF, and how if you criticize anything regarding the Vatican, you do not have religious freedom in this country. And that's exactly, we are a Protestant country. Protestants came from the Reformation, which started persecution from Rome. It hasn't changed. If we really have Christian freedom, he should immediately look at this case. It is a travesty of justice. And he should pardon Tony Alamo, who's been sitting in jail for 8 years on a 175-year sentence that is totally bogus. So then we can see if he really is on the side of the American freedom, Protestants and Christian freedom. Let's get this case, the petition that I've started on the website, get it to people. Get this show to people. I don't care who it is, your Congress, everywhere. Let's find out, because it's one of his reasons he got elected. Now, the evangelical movement we know is ecumenical, which means that it's really under the pocket of Rome. But beside the point, many of the people in the pews don't understand this. So what I'm getting at is, let's start carving away at what religious freedom really is in this country and see if he's willing, one, to look at this case. Now, secondly, he's wavering now on even maybe they're going to give Clinton a pardon. Now, if they pardon Hillary Clinton for everything she's done, and they do not look at Tony Alamo's case, there is no religious freedom still in this country, and it's all a whitewash for a certain period of time. So, we have to get together, and in fact, in the next 3 days, I'm going to have 3 people, one each day, from the Alamo ministry, and I'm going to bring this home so that we can start figuring out who we can get this case in front of, get the petition, go to freeTonyAlamo.com, sign that petition, and realize that we are at a point now where we got a window of opportunity to really get things straight here, see where the chips lie, before what eventually, well, I hate to say it because there's a lot of hope and optimism here, but we come from a point in this show where we can you waver from the fact that there is a plan to destroy Western civilization? There is a plan, a hidden agenda that started long before we were here. Now in this country, we can take it all the way back even before this country was formed and look at what the aristocrats and the Vatican had up their sleeve when they realized the New World here was a gold mine. And their way of getting into this country and the distortion of our history, of the Vatican role, the Catholic role in creating this country for a very specific purpose. And we've gone over that ad nauseum, and I can't get into it right now. But I can tell you this, that the statement of, let's go back to the principles of our founding fathers. Sure, on the surface, some of the principles are great. The Constitution is great. But how many times has the Constitution just been a piece of paper that gives you the illusion of freedom, and it appears that most every person with power just steps on it like it's a piece of toilet paper? Now, I believe there was a hidden agenda with our founding fathers, and it had to do with the Vatican having control of many of them and creating a country that appeared to be free so that the Vatican could get its feet into this country and eventually take it over along with its politicians. Now, how do I know that? Look at the beginnings. Look at even before this country was formed. They didn't want Catholics here. They did not want the Rome in this country at all. The Protestants realized what they were all about. But over time and revisionist history and their power, from one little diocese in Maryland, and under the guise of freedom of religion, they have allowed to grow by leaps and bounds in this country. And whether they are a card-carrying Catholic or one of the people in their ecumenical movement who basically support the Pope, they've grown to be the largest. They're in every city, every state. It's the enormous amount of wealth, not only in land, but in government, in money, in connections to our government. You need look no farther than Georgetown University. You need look farther to all of the supporters who are supporting Rome. And if you go back to the Reagan administration, even before that, you'll see that many of them, the old-timers, even new, all have connections to Rome and the Vatican. Every position in government. You can look from housing to finance to education. And do you think that all of this time and investment is just going to be wiped away automatically? I don't. So what could be, like we said, we're going to surmise here, what could be the Achilles heel here? What could be the Achilles heel for the American people? Could it be what's going on overseas that could lead to a huge war that disrupts everything? Could it be they're drawing the lines now? England and America, Russia in this precarious position, China, of course, lining up with Iran. Look what Obama did in the Middle East. Look at the money he's given Iran to create a nuclear program. Just yesterday, North Korea said it will have nuclear capabilities to reach the west coast of America within a year. Now, what are we going to do there? What are we going to do with the powder keg in Iran? With Obama's conception, what he's created was a monster overseas, a definite weakness of our military. Trump has vowed to strengthen our military, which now is no match. I still say this, is no match for what's going on in the Middle East, Russia, China, North Korea, and many other adversaries. We are in a situation that if we don't build our military quickly, we are in big trouble, because I still believe that if Obama was not on the side of radical Islam and destroying Western civilization and us as we know it, he would have kept a strong military. He would have not allowed Iran to get on a nuclear path. He would have not allowed North Korea to become this aggressor. He would have not allowed the Middle East to be completely destabilized, creating all of these refugees, many of which they would have not allowed ISIS to grow. We funded it. It was Hillary Clinton's baby. So why do you think that that's all? Trump is in a, there's a lot of things he's doing domestically, but what is he going to do with his foreign policy? Now, if you get tough, I also believe strength creates peace, in a sense. Obama's weakened everything. Our relationships overseas. But can there be a powder keg? Can there be something that would create a huge conflict? That could be the Achilles heel here. That would disrupt anything he could do for the American people. While the American people are looking towards their domestic situation, we have threats coming from abroad. Also, up the Jesuit sleeve here was to create chaos within our own country itself. We basically, and who creates it better than George Soros and the left? They're the ones who love to create the violence. They're the ones out there creating this crazy, group called Black Lives Matter. I mean, give me a break. I've been around a long time, and this group is nothing more than a group created to create racism and to create this kind of lawless feeling that I feel sorry for our police officers who, right now, if you're a police officer in Chicago, I'd rather be walking the rice paddies of Vietnam in those days or be in Afghanistan. I mean, just this week there have been 3 police officers shot, I think 2 killed, 1 assassinated. I mean, literally. A gun put to his head and shot. I mean, the creation of chaos here would only come with a Trump victory, because you know as well as I do, if Clinton won, many of the hardworking American people would just go back to lick their wounds, go back to work. They wouldn't be lining the streets. They wouldn't be paid agitators going out to create violence. Look what happened in Portland, a very liberal, probably one of our most liberal cities. They were walking up to cars. I was watching this. They're driving down, these poor people were driving down the street in their car, and these people were walking up with baseball bats, just knocking in their windows. Not to mention what they did to the businesses. So this isn't going to stop for a while. So the creation of chaos from within and this threat of violence from abroad could be what shuts down anything that Trump can do. And is it what they have planned? I can't see how they would just disrupt their global system because of one mere selection of a president that appears to be nationalistic to get America back on track. It doesn't work that way up at the higher echelons of power. And I said the 2 ways to figure this out and to really know where we're at is to look at Fethullah Gulen and his movement and demand he be removed. There is the Trojan horse of radical Islam right here now. And secondly, to present the Tony Alamo Christian case, who shows persecution at the highest levels here, to supposed now an administration that wants Christian freedom in this country. It's going to put in Supreme Court justices, pro-life, Second Amendment. Well, let's see if they can really give us Christians freedom of religion, Trump said, I'm getting rid of the Johnson Amendment. I'm not going to attach 501c3 money. Pastors should be allowed to speak about politics from the pulpit. No pastor in the history of this country right now is more of an example of that than Tony Alamo, who all he ever spoke about was the truth starting back in the 60s. And he's been persecuted for it by the IRS, the FBI, the BATF, you name it, and sits in jail on bogus charges because he spoke out. And now that's what Trump wants. Well, let's put this case in front of him, or someone that can get it to him and his people, and see if we can get Tony out of prison. Be nice. All right, we got 2 minutes. I always ask you, okay, let's finish up, because I was in Mexico for a couple days, and the reason was to get to the bottom. I want to talk to the people. I want to see what they're like. I mean, there's so many nice people there, and many of them would love to stay in Mexico. They don't need, the only reason they come here is there's no job. I mean, you know how much money they would make? Maybe if they work in a factory all day, they'll make about $8. And things are cheaper there. But I'm telling you, that orchestration of what happened to the Mexican economy had a lot to do with the Vatican over the centuries. And all you got to do is go there and see the influence, the churches there, all the Catholic churches, and the people not knowing the truth. And it's really nice that I even mentioned the Tony Alamo case to a couple. There's some Christian ministries there, and one asked me to send some of the stuff to them, and I'll do that. As well as a church here, I met some people from a church here I met in Chula Vista, California, that are now going to the website. They didn't see it. About freeing Tony, and they're going to talk to their pastor to see if I could speak there about it. So I think I presented you 2 issues that'll show the true nature of what happened in this election by using Gulen regarding Islamic terrorism, and using Tony Alamo as regarding religious freedom in this country. And remember this. Let's see what happens to the criminal Hillary Clinton and whether she is pardoned. That would be amazing. Just to me, totally wrong. And someone should deal with what she's done. We'll be back tomorrow on the Investigative Journal. Thanks for listening, and see you tomorrow.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie, with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character, as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy, in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the Left Behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.